Welcome to Tobias Growth Mindset. This video is about digital leadership in the new now. Do you remember the COVID-19 pandemic where most leaders had to lead their teams digitally just because of the fact that they couldn't actually meet in office due to the danger of infecting each other? And even nowadays, there's a lot of teams that work hybrid, so some days in the office together and some days people are in the home office and they work together digitally, and some teams still fully work digitally together. I mean, especially if you have a global distributed team, it's kind of mandatory and normal to work digitally together. The topic of leadership for me personally is very close to my heart, and in the year 2020 I decided to do an online executive education program at INSEAD about digital leadership, which was called Developing Emerging Leaders. I wanted to upskill myself at this time because I had to lead a team in Europe during the COVID-19 pandemic totally digitally. And after completing the digital leadership course at INSEAD, which I thought was extremely valuable, I really wanted to share my knowledge, and I had the chance to jump on a virtual Hey Future event, which was arranged by Alina Nastas. I can also put the link to Hey Future in the description below. And there I was able to share what I learned in this course about digital leadership. And you will see in the following, as part of this video, the recording of this 20 minutes presentation, which I gave during the Hey Future event. I know you might be wondering now, hey Tobias, this is the first video that you do in English. And this because the following recording that will follow now is actually in English from the Hey Future event. However, I have to say I will stay my language niche true, which is German, and the following videos will be again in German. In general, if you like videos about mindset, about leadership, financial knowledge and innovation, this is the right place. I would really be happy if you subscribe to my channel. Best case, you click the bell icon so you don't miss any future videos. You can also give this video a thumbs up if you find this video valuable. But now, without any further ado, here's the presentation about digital leadership in the new now, with a lot of recommendations of what you can directly implement right away in your daily life at work. So enjoy.
One thing you should know about myself is that the topic of leadership is very close to my heart. And as many of you obviously know, is due to COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of leaders, including their team members, had to work in home office, and the leaders had to suddenly lead digitally. And I'm also convinced that leading digitally will be a big part even after the pandemic in the future. And the whole topic of leading digitally brings a whole set of new challenges along. And in my presentation, what I would like to do is I would like to share with you some approaches on how to tackle some of these challenges. But first, I would like to start with a disclaimer. By giving this presentation, I'm not somehow saying that I'm a specialist or an expert in this topic. I'm pretty sure there are leaders in this call that have much more experience than me, and this is great because we are later creating a leadership playbook with all your inputs, and that's why it's great to have so many experts and knowledge in this call. So why am I doing this presentation? One reason you can see on this slide here, I really like to live the working out loud spirit. And many of you might now think, okay, what is working out loud? So if you do not know what working out loud is, I can highly recommend after the presentations to check out workingoutloud.com. In a nutshell, working out loud is a way to build relationships in your network by offering contributions over time that are valuable to the network. And by this, you create trust. Like I said, for more information, I can recommend the book or the website, and definitely join a Working Out Loud circle if you can. Another fact about myself. So I'm a pretty structured person, I would say. And when I was thinking about the structure of this presentation, actually Simon Sinek came to my mind. So Simon Sinek is for me one of the most motivational leadership speakers of our times. And you can see a picture of him on this slide. And he came up with this concept of the golden circle, which you can see here as well. So the golden circle in the middle starts with why, like why the heck is he giving this presentation? And then like, what is the things that I learned? And then I will conclude with the how, like how can we all apply these things if you wish, obviously. So that's kind of the structure. So let's start with the why. So why am I giving this presentation? There are actually 3 reasons why I give this presentation. The first reason is that I want to share what I recently learned at INSEAD. That's what I mentioned earlier. So I told Alina I had like no time because of work and the demanding INSEAD program to share this, and I'm happy that I have this opportunity now to share what I learned at INSEAD. And the picture you can see here on this slide is actually very close to my heart, because this is the INSEAD campus in Singapore, and this is where also the program that I did was managed from. The other reason this picture resonates very strongly with me is because I lived for 6 years in Singapore and I drove by this campus very often. Actually, the first workplace where I worked in Singapore was just 600 meters away from this campus. I drove by with the bus almost every morning and evening this campus, and I was curious about like, what is one of the best business schools in the world teaching, and how would it be to study there? So this year, finally, I got a glimpse on how this is when I did the online executive education program at INSEAD called Developing Emerging Leaders. And whenever you can see this INSEAD green color in my slides, I actually want to share some of the things which I learned there with you, because I think it's very beneficial. Okay, and one more thing, I do not want to make advertisement for INSEAD here. This is very important for me, but I just want to share with you, this course was really great, with professors like Declan Fitzsimmons, Mark Mortensens, and I already saw Celia in the call. So she was my personal coach, which was very enriching experience with great feedback during our Zoom call sessions. And on the right side, you can see this is my study group that I had. So we had a lot of Zoom calls as well, and it was always very enriching. So that's the first reason. Second reason, why do I give this presentation? So I would love to share a bit my personal leadership experience during COVID-19, especially during the 9 weeks I was purely on home office and all my team was on home office. So you can see my home office here. That's also where I'm sitting in front of just right now. And this are my 2 huge screens, which are kind of my door to the world. And maybe a few words to what am I doing at Bosch. So I work in the solution and cross-selling department. So I work there with global teams at Bosch on cross-divisional international business development projects. So we are basically, as you can see in this funnel, the one face to the customer for big key account customers that require solutions from different divisions within Bosch. So we bring these teams together and we build this one face to the customer. Obviously, our team is set up globally. So we were always used to kind of collaborate digitally, but COVID-19 has really amplified this, and especially also with the team that we have in Germany. So that was the second reason. Now let's come to the third reason. There's also a reason that is very close to my heart, because I think it's very important to learn about leaderships, and that's what I realized in the last years even more. Because imagine, like from childhood on, almost everything we learn, we use science to explain. But to be honest, at least for me, that was the case. We seldom or never look at the neuroscience behind leadership. So what normally happens is you're great in engineering or you're very good in business, and then you get promoted. But when you are promoted, then you are a leader, and then now your number one priority should be to take care of the people that take care of business and engineering. So your main task as a leader are now the people. But most of the time in these cases, you do not learn about the science behind leadership. So I'm not saying that I know the science behind leadership. I just say I learned a lot of science behind leadership in the INSEAD course and also through my experience, and I would like to share this here. And one more point, when I talk about this kind of concept, I really do not want in this presentation to give any academic theory, not at all. So I want to give practical recommendations that you can immediately apply. So let's get started on the what. So what do I want to talk about? And for the what section, I want to have a look at leading digitally compared to leading in person. And I also want to have a look at the difference between leadership and management, because for me, this difference is very important. So let's have a look at leading digitally and leading in person. I think these pictures explain a lot. And as mentioned, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, many leaders were forced to lead digitally due to mandatory home office. And I personally experienced this for 9 weeks, where I was more or less most of the time at home and worked digitally via Skype with my team. And even today, so I would say roundabout, I'm still leading 60% digitally because we have still the rule 40% home office per week, and most of the team is around the globe. So with them, we anyway work together digitally. And as leading digitally is so important for the future, I will focus on this part in this presentation. And here's really the good news about it. At least for the concepts that I'm showing you today, the same principles and the same concepts can be applied leading digitally, but also leading in person. And now let's come to the topic, the difference between leadership and management. Did you actually know there are 35,000 academic definitions of leadership? So, and I want to use a very simple, pragmatic one, which I learned during the INSEAD course. And it goes like this, you can see it here. So based on this simple definition, management means that you're mainly focusing on the tasks. And in leadership, however, you focus on the task, but also on relationships and self-awareness. So what does it mean? You are aware of your relationships in the video call, and you're aware of yourself and how others perceive you in this video call or in the meeting room. And that's why when we talk about leadership, normally we talk about 3 dimensions: leading self, leading others, and leading the tasks. And it's important to understand this definition because I will be coming back to this. Let's give an example. So you see this picture here, right? And there's a lot of numbers. So if I would be a great manager, and I can be a great manager and they can drive business, but a manager would talk, I don't know, a meeting is 30 minutes, a manager would talk about these numbers and only these numbers. But a leader would also understand what are the relationships between all these people in the room and what is their perception to these numbers, and very important as well, how do they perceive him as a leader or her as a leader in this call. I will be coming back to this to make this a bit more clear. And now you might ask yourself, Tobias, this is all nice, but why is relationships and self-awareness so important? We need now businesses to create money. Now, you know, to put it very simple, and I liked this explanation very much, relationships and self-awareness at the end of the day drive behavior. And behavior, as you can see it in this diagram here from INSEAD, impacts performance. And obviously the performance of a team is extremely important anywhere, for business, for sports, wherever. That means if the behavior is wrong, your performance will be wrong as well. So for example, when I as a leader show to my team behaviors like motivating or empathy or optimism or giving them freedom and responsibility, these kind of behaviors impact their performance very strongly. And obviously, these kind of behaviors are also recognized when you lead via video call. So let's come to the most important part, the how part. And here I would like to explain how you can implement certain methods to be a more effective leader. So the first one I just mentioned earlier. So as a leader, it's very important that you do not only focus on the task, but also on the relationships. And you can see this method in the upper left corner, this task versus relationship. And we just learned, okay, you need to kind of focus on both. But this might be easy in a normal meeting, but let's assume you have a stressful situation. Then this is especially difficult. And I realized this myself. In stressful work situations, I tend to focus more on the task because it's, to be honest, also easier, and partially neglect relationships. And this is also what the diagram shows here. So it's the gap between the situation rating and the rating of where I put my focus. But the good news is, and this is where kind of the key is, you need to be aware of this. So the more you are aware of this, and you realize this in these situations, and I personally, since I became more aware of this, I realized this in these situations, and this allows me today to go a step back in these situations and focus again also on the relationships and not only on the tasks. And you know, the great thing is, which helps me a lot, is in our team we even have a symbol now for this. We agreed in the team to have a symbol that looks like this. You can see it in the upper left corner. That's our X cat. We call it the cross-selling cat, and it's our agreed symbol. So every team member can show this when he thinks it's a stressful and emotional discussion currently happening. This makes this kind of discussion transparent for everyone, and we can take a step back and then openly discuss the challenge. That's important. And in this regards, you take care also of the relationships in the room or in the Skype call. Another recommendation, this is I can really recommend very highly, that helped me and my team a lot to go through the COVID-19 crisis so far, has been, and it sounds simple, to have at least one check-in call every day to see how the team members are doing. And very important, these calls are not about the work tasks. They are purely to see how the team members are doing. And now maybe some of you might think, okay, Tobias, I do not really have time for this soft and fluffy stuff. But to be honest, this is not the soft and fluffy stuff. This is actually leadership. Because there's many studies that have proven that the engagement, motivation, and performance of team members increased significantly if leaders, and this is the important part, they sincerely care about the team members as persons, as human beings as they are. And this is even amplified in a pandemic situation like we have it now, because there's so much uncertainty around. And if people are uncertain, guess what? They won't perform very well. And that's why you need them to give a space to talk openly about it. And that's what I realized also is very important in this check-in calls. As a leader, you need to create an authentic and sincere environment where the team members feel safe around you, that they can say what they're experiencing. And this also means, as a leader, and this might seem unnatural for a leader, but you need to show certain vulnerability and explain what you are experiencing, or in this case, what I experienced. For example, when the whole COVID-19 pandemic started in Europe, obviously all hairdressers were closed, and I really needed to get a haircut. So I told my team members that I cut my hair myself, and I showed it in the video call, and it was kind of a failure. But that showed also vulnerability and opened them up to share their experiences and what they are uncertain about and maybe also afraid about. Okay, now I added this slide because I don't want that you think that, okay, leadership is now all about self-awareness and only about relationships and all this fluffy stuff. No, obviously not. As a leader, you want to achieve a common goal with your team, and therefore tasks has to get done as well. It's clear. The difference is just how you achieve these common tasks and how you achieve a common goal. And my recommendation when working digitally is to have every day a digital daily Scrum call. This is different from the check-in call. And here you make the challenges transparent. You talk about the tasks, obviously, like the to-dos and what you're doing and what is done. But very important, you make the challenges transparent so that everyone can help each other. That's the biggest benefit that I see also in our team that we have from this call. And then now let's come to another topic. So many of you might know the quote, feedback is the breakfast for champions. And this is especially true for leaders. I personally have one-on-one feedback sessions with my team members every week where I give and receive feedback. And for this, I use now an INSEAD method, or at least a method which I got taught at INSEAD, which is the SBI method. So SBI stands for situation, behavior, and impact. So with the SBI method, as you can see here, you explain first where and when and what was the context, then the behavior that I observed, and then how did it make me feel and what conclusions did I make from it. And you know that the great thing when using this method is when you use the SBI method, you indirectly show vulnerability because you explain a situation how you experienced this. And very important, you do not demand that you are right. You explain just how you perceived it. And by showing this kind of vulnerability, it allows then afterwards a two-way communication where the other party explained how he saw this situation. And this is a kind of important diagram for me, because if you show this kind of vulnerability, you also accept the filters that everyone has on reality. And you do not claim that your view is the only right view of reality. So this part is important to me because I think this is important that leaders are aware that people see the reality through filters and that they do not demand that only their view is the only right view. And maybe to emphasize one more thing about this, I think the capacity to learn from others is one of actually the most important leadership skills of all. And in this kind of situations, the leaders learns a lot. And I think this is also one of the biggest possibility for leaders in terms of learning, to learn from their team members. And now the question might come, but how do leaders cultivate an environment, where their team members provide open feedback? Because this is not always the case. And to be honest, to address this question, I just want to give you a food of thoughts, because I cannot go into all depth of this question here due to time. But for me, one of the questions that every leader should be obsessed about is, what are the conversations that don't happen around you as a leader because of you? Because if you have the feeling as a leader that your team members are not addressing certain topics around you, then there's missing trust. And remember what we discussed at the beginning, if there's missing trust, then this impacts behavior, and this would impact performance of your team. So now how to solve this challenge, right? That's a magical question. And like I said, I cannot answer this in a very short time, but maybe let me just give you 4 things, which we kind of already heard as a summary also kind of this presentation to the leaders. First, be sincere and authentic. People realize if you fake. Second, show vulnerability. Show also that you have difficulties in this time. Third, focus on the relationships in a call, not only the tasks. And very importantly, fourth part is be aware of yourself and how others perceive you. Obviously, we could now talk much more about trust, and from Celia, I learned the Lencioni team dysfunction model, which kind of discusses this in depth, but that would go way too far. So let's slowly come to an end. Let's do a hard cut here. So I'm showing now you a slide with a Salesforce Kpi dashboard, and you most likely think like, why the heck is he showing this? So during actually the INSEAD course, I reflected and I remembered the phrase from when I was doing my MBA. And this phrase from Peter Drucker said, what gets measured gets improved. And so I asked myself, can I come up with KPIs? So leadership KPIs, so I can track how well I improved during the INSEAD course. And I actually came up with KPIs for every method taught during the INSEAD course. It looks something like this. And don't worry, I don't go into all the details, but I measured the amount of mindfulness exercises I did to become more self-aware. I measured the number of SBI feedback I gave. I measured the checking calls I had with my team, just to name a few. So personally, this helped me to stay on track, and it was nice. But to be honest, at the end of the day, the much better indication of how you are doing as a leader is the feedback from your team. Because at the end of the day, I cannot tell you if I'm a good leader or not. Only my team members can make this judgment. And therefore, it makes me also extremely proud. In the last team retrospective, my team members actually put on the enjoyable part Tobias' leadership. And this was really made my day on that day. So I know this was now a lot of information in a very, very short time. And I'm very happy that Fabian kind of summarizes some of the points, and we will put everything together later in a leadership playbook, which then can be also shared later on. And I would like to conclude this presentation by emphasizing that from my point of view, all of us are leaders. Even though you might not have direct team members reporting to you, you lead by influence, you lead by expertise, and you certainly lead your own future. And if I could decide one thing that you take along from this presentation with so much content, this one thing would be the leader you wish you had. I think if you follow this, you will be a great leader. And happy to discuss further about leadership or anything else, and would be happy if you discuss, link with me in the great platform LinkedIn. So thank you very much.
I hope you liked the video and you got some value with some good digital leadership practices out of this video, which you can implement right away. I'm actually super curious what you will implement, and therefore I would kindly ask you to write in the comments below which digital leadership practices from this video you will implement at your work. And in general, if you like content about mindset, leadership, financial knowledge, and also innovation, I would be super happy if you subscribe to my channel. In best case, click the bell icon so you don't miss any new videos, and please give this video a thumbs up if you got some value out of it. And if you are interested in the topic of leadership, I can also recommend you this video, because in this video I talk about the leadership of Elon Musk and what we can learn from it for our daily life, but also for work. And now I wish you all the best for your personal growth, and I would be really happy to see you in one of the next videos. Ciao.